And The Naked Truth About Leading is presented by Naked Audience Productions, and you can find us at napevents.com as a shorter version to that. And I'll tell you a little bit about Naked Audience Productions, and it's one thing to be able to say Naked Audience Productions, but it's another thing to write it because we keep getting caught in a spam filter. You know, we started this company as an opportunity to be able to really work with people on unmasking or unlearning different philosophies to relearn new philosophies. So we are a training and coaching company transforming others on mastering the art of authentic communications. That's what we do. And how we do that is through programs and business coaching on leadership, communications, and public speaking events. So our lead, Leadership Education and Development, Finding Your Voice as a Leader, is what this presentation is on today. And I'll share with you great opportunities to be able to attend one of our events. We also offer the Stages program, which is a 3-day certification program, and that is all about public speaking. Now, a lot of times people say, well, I'm not a speaker, or I'm not an educator, or, somebody that has to present in front of people. But if you're a leader, you are presenting in front of people, and your clarity of communication is critical to the success of you as a leader. Now, we obviously teach this program from a stage presence, but we've had a lot of marketing executives, entrepreneurs, and other leaders in high-level capacity positions like that attend this program because it's all about refining their communication approach and creating connections with others. And then, of course, we do coaching, business coaching, brand leadership. Now, each of these programs have many components to them, and so the coaching can be on any one of those components or just general business components. And we'll talk a little bit about the programs that we offer throughout the presentation here. So again, my name is Bonnie Bonadeo, and my brand is I'm a Connector. And I share that with you because that's one of the really significant pieces in the Naked Audience Productions program is having clarity of your brand. When you know who you are and you're okay with who you are, you then can be more present with other people. Now that, in turn, is a lot of what leadership is about. So as I mentioned before, I'm president and founder of the Beauty Agents, Beauty Gurus, and co-founder of Naked Audience Productions. There's my partner there. She was unable to make it today with a previous engagement, but Alejandra Crucifoli is my partner, and her brand is that she's the guide. Now, I've been in the industry for 32 years, and I have done just about everything except for own a salon. And maybe one day that will actually happen too. But I've managed several salons, worked for distributorships, I've worked for manufacturers. Most recently, I worked for the PBA Association, managing and directing events, and then started my own business, The Beauty Agents. And the reason why I started my own business was because I saw an opportunity to start offering a different kind of education. Some of it technical. Under the Beauty Agents, I offer a lot of talent that can teach you anything from color, nails, skin, massage, you name it, all categories in beauty, even business. And those are, any of those educators are available for bookings. Under the Naked Audience Productions company, this was really where we wanted to go deep with people. It wasn't about a technique or a surface positioning of learning. It was really about transforming people to be better at who they are so they can be better at what they do. I, too, am a licensed cosmetologist. I started out working in a salon and really enjoyed doing hair, but I found the business side of the industry to just kind of turn me on a little bit more than the creative part of standing there doing hair. I had great vision. I had great ideas, but my execution in regards to doing hair didn't seem to be as great as the opportunities and the creative that I could bring to a business side to this industry. I'm also an emotional intelligent facilitator and leader, and what that means in emotional intelligence is it's a philosophy of if you are a high IQ person, you have a very logical approach to things. But if you are a high EQ, emotional quotient person, it's not a logical response. It's more of an authentic response to things. Now, as human beings, we're all based on emotion. So part of the leadership training that we offer and part of the presentation today is going to touch a little bit on emotional intelligence. I also have certificates in business management and entrepreneur from USC Irvine. So that's the facts about me. Now let's talk about the real naked truth about who I am. So as a leader, I was fired from a major company back in the day. And I can't tell you exactly why I was fired. I mean, obviously they said one thing to put in my files, but I knew it was another. But how I really chalked that up to getting fired was nobody taught me how to be a leader. And just like anything, just like learning how to execute a great haircut or be able to, master a great meal, there's a learning curve to all of it. So I went from an educator where I got to present technical information, and they just thought I was so great that they promoted me to a manager, and then I was leading 40, 50 people. And I was young at the time too. I was still very young. And I thought I was doing a good job, but apparently I wasn't, and I ended up getting fired as a leader. And of course that propelled me to do everything I could to figure out how to be a better leader in life, because I was never going to let that happen again. So there's one of those emotional experiences that can transform who you are in the world. And with that, I don't tell people that, but that's really my naked truth. I'm standing up here, or sitting, I guess I should say. I'm sitting here sharing with you the naked truth about leading, and I'm telling you I was fired as a leader or manager because I wasn't effective with people. Now, I can share with you why I wasn't effective with people. There were times I was afraid to speak up. There was many times that I worried about, am I saying the right thing? Do I look okay? Am I looking the part? I wanted to be liked, and I know as leaders that's a big part of who we are. We want to be liked, and in some cases we're friends with a lot of people that we're leading and managing. We socialize with them in the after hours, and so when it comes down to really having to manage them in the hard times, we find it very difficult. So I wanted to be liked, but more importantly, I wanted to be effective. I genuinely wanted to do a good job with whoever I worked for or whatever project I was working on. And there were some times that I did not feel I was worthy to be in the positions that I was in. I felt overwhelmed by them. I felt like I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't good enough. I have little patience, and I can say that to this day. It's just who I am. I have to accept that. So I have to take cautionary measures knowing I have little patience when dealing with people because I can't project that on them at times. Now, having little patience, the sidebar to that is you don't have great listening skills. So for those people that had said, I'd really like to learn better listening skills, I'm going to assume you're in the category with me here that you have little patience. So I have to work on great listening skills daily and often. And it's not something that I have mastered. It's something that I continue to master daily and have to remind myself of that. Now, as a leader, I expect others to work as fast, as long, and as hard and as efficient as I did. And you know that's not the case. Nobody else is like you, and so nobody else is going to produce or complete things like you do. And I'm very fast. I'm very quick. I'm very fast, and I have a capacity to just keep going maybe more than the average person. And I really expected a lot of my team a lot of times to do that just like me. And it was just kind of a category I put people in instead of working with them individually. I assumed others really got what I was saying the first time. So if I shared how to do something, I expected they got it because I got it the first time I heard it, or with little explanation. Maybe I just didn't need to go into all the detail. But, some people are very analytical. Some people have a different learning ability, and I realized that part of my demise as a leader was I didn't spend the time to go through and make sure that I was individualizing the importance of it for each person. I am a great multitasker, and as many of you know, if you multitask, it means that you're probably not a good delegator. So I would be, okay, I can teach them how to do this, or I can just do it myself. Which one is going to be faster? Because remember, I work really fast. So I multitask a lot, and instead of delegating and providing support and nurturing to other people. I'm a very creative person. I have a lot of ideas. I can probably produce 10 great ideas in a day, but I'm not the best implementer. So if I had a team of people that could support implementing great ideas, then that was ultimately the greatest team of all. And people that could support that in those positions that I held in management, we made some great things happen because I had the right team built and put together. And there were times that I was absolutely brilliant, and not just because I say I'm brilliant, but other people saw flashes of brilliance in me as a leader, as a creative person, as somebody that could just take things in a different direction and make them be something different and make them be really special. So there's my naked truth about me. And those are things that, you know, I don't normally always share in environments, but as a leader, you have to be really present with who you are, because I promise you, if you're not, or if you're trying to hide something, you're still bringing it to the table. And that's the biggest issue with leadership today is everybody always feels, I'm not getting communicated to enough. I'm not getting the support that I need. I don't know what she wants from me or he wants from me. So I want to ask you a question now. What do you think leadership is? And what I also want you to write, and what you're going to do is you're going to go into the chat box and you are going to share with us your naked truth. One thing, just one thing that you want to share to really open up this moment of vulnerability, getting naked here, vulnerability of what your greatest fear is when you're leading, what you're afraid of, what's your naked truth. So go into the chat box right now for those of you that are online and right away. And I promise you this will be confidential with us. And I promise you I won't do anything with it. But now's the time to open up and really, really express where your leadership angst is, where your greatest anxiety is in leading other people. Okay, so we got the chat box open. And you guys are being really shy at this time. Oh, here's one. Okay. Perfect. Good. I have a bad memory. Okay, so maybe you say things to certain people, but then you don't remember what you're saying to certain people. So you can go into the question or the chat box and put any of this information in there. Let's see what we got. Here we go. Hold on, please. My naked truth is all of my employees were my friends before we opened up, and I'm afraid they'll be mad at me. Oh, that's a common feeling, especially in this industry. The feeling I don't know enough to lead. And that's another common one because, again, leadership is also about training. It's building up that muscle of really being authentically present with other people. It's not about having the answers. I can guarantee you leadership is not about having the answers. I feel let down by them when they don't succeed, okay? And that's a natural feeling. And here's one of them, that I'm just scared to be a leader at all. And usually it's because we're not quite sure how to start those conversations, or we're not quite sure how to present ourselves. Now, a lot of times what happens, thank you for sharing, everybody. Those were really great naked truths. I appreciate your vulnerability in that moment and sharing that with all of us. See, and what you'll see is that you probably could share in what everybody else said as well. All right. Now, when we talk about being vulnerable, a lot of times, you know, they were my friends and then I got promoted to leadership. That was the case in my situation when I had gotten fired. I was on the same level with this entire team, and then all of a sudden they thought I was great and they decided to promote me to manager. So now all of these people were working for me. And I did make a lot of mistakes in how to be with them. And all of a sudden we get this leadership hat on, or we own our business for the first time, or we make this transition of being in charge of people, and it's like all of our authenticity and genuineness just flies out the window. We then all of a sudden feel like we have to have this corporate hat on, and we can't show emotion, and we have to just stick to the facts and the policy and procedure manual. And that's the worst thing you can do as a leader. Now, those things are tools. They're there to support you. They're there to help you. They're there to create structure, culture, and guidance. But they are not there to create connections with other people. Direction, yes. Connection, no. And leadership is about connecting with others. So when all of the register, I asked you a couple of questions. What, and I'm sorry, I've already seen my typo here, what do you need the most help in? That's what it should say. And you wrote coaching others, creating a strong culture, listening skills, getting everyone on board to my way, and then of course there was all of the above. So that was kind of the general list of everybody on the call today as to what they wanted. So coaching others, that's, that again is a trained skill. It's like anything, the more you do it, the more you practice, the better you become. But there is some real strategy around coaching others. And I will tell you that this webinar today has little tidbits of a lot of information, but the program lead, which is a 3-day program that we offer, this is where we actually take the practical skills and the strategy of coaching and teach you, and then you practice and practice and practice. And over 3 days, you're so comfortable with the approach that you go back and I promise you, you're not going to be the same person. Others of you said creating a strong culture. And I guess to really define culture, culture is really your brand. It's who you say you are, and you represent yourself under that intention. So think of culture as it's my brand and it's my intention. Now, culture can happen with your staff. Culture can happen under your corporate brand, your umbrella, or who the company is. And culture can happen within your customer base or client base, and if your school's student base as well. And culture is what naturally resonates from who you say you are. So if you are a bad leader or a scared leader, or you don't like leading at all, even though you might be running the business or owning the business, then the culture might become a very posturing environment. In other words, if nobody's leading, everybody feels like they have to lead. So it's kind of like too many cooks in the kitchen approach. Creating a strong culture is about understanding who your brand is, and also about having the intention that you've created for that brand, for that business, for that staff, for those clients or students. So culture is created. Now, it will create itself whether you do or not. So you have to decide what you want your culture to be and create that. Now, a lot of people struggle with, but it's already like this, how do I change it? Well, you get leadership training skills and you get presentation or speaking skills, and I promise you, you can change your culture, because it's also about having that authentic approach to what you want and providing that access to that for other people. And I know when somebody said on here that they want to see people succeed and they feel bad if they don't succeed. Part of success is built within a culture. Listening skills. Listening skills is, a lot of times we say as leaders, it's about what you say and how you direct people and manage them. But leadership and coaching is really more about listening than it is speaking. So listening skills is a big part of really allowing that authentic approach to leadership to take place. I was recently in this program a couple weeks ago, and there was this portion of the program where they did this listening skill technique, and it was a lot of what I've used in emotional intelligence, but what was great about it was that they just took it one step further. And it was obviously a different approach to listening than I had ever experienced before. So I was excited about that. I'll share a little bit more with you because it is one of the key features of this presentation today. But it's also what we're going to be doing at our LEAD program as part of one of the exercises at our LEAD program is on listening skills. Getting everyone on board to my way. Now this was a bit of a faux pas for me. So getting everybody on board is a lot of what I hear when I'm out doing leadership presentations. How do I get everybody on board? How do I, there seems to be such animosity between everybody. and what's the trick to getting people on board. And then of course the faux pas part I put on there was my way. And as you all know in leadership, that there is an opportunity to direct your team. But if you make it your way, if it's about telling instead of coaching or providing space for people to be great, you're going to find that there's nothing but resistance that comes up. So getting everybody on board has a different approach than getting everybody on board to doing what I need them to do. And I know that sounds a bit like an oxymoron in that approach, but it is true. It's all about how you do it and how you approach it. And then, of course, a good portion of people said, all of the above. Please help me with all of the above. Great. Okay. So I'm going to check in over here and just make sure we don't have any further questions before I move on. How do you deal with, okay, so here's a few more that came in. How do you deal with negative attitudes? Great. Dealing with negative people. Ooh, that seems to be a big one here. And I'm afraid to have, I'm afraid that they won't do it right. Well, the fact is that there's going to be times that they're not going to do it right. So that's part of the learning curve, and you have to build in time for that to be able to have that. Now, obviously, it can't be something critical that you're putting them in the place of, but as a leader, you do have to provide that space for them to gain access to trying new things. All right, so let's look at what you wrote as which one is your biggest challenge. Feeling like a babysitter was a big challenge, and I promise you that as a leader, there are a lot of details that you have to deal with, and it will feel like you are being a babysitter. But what's not present if you're a babysitter is probably trust. So I want you to just ponder that for a moment. If you're feeling like you're having to babysit a lot of things, then the environment of trust may be where the work needs to be done. It's not telling people to do it or getting people to do more, or the 80-20 rule. 80% of the people, or 20% of the people, are bringing in 80% of the work philosophy. So you feel like you're babysitting 80% of the people while 20% of the people are making it happen. But it's probably just a little bit of trust issues going on in there. And again, that's part of your culture, going back to part of your culture. One other biggest challenge was having the difficult conversations. And yes, the difficult conversations, but we're going to share with you some techniques on having those difficult conversations. Too busy behind the chair to manage others. That happens a lot in our industry, and it really is. You have to go back and ask yourself, what was the reason for you to be a salon owner to begin with? And there's that opportunity. When you duplicate yourself, you'll have 10 times greater success than if you do it by yourself. So for those of you that maybe have never read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, I think it is. I think I'm saying that right. The E-Myth. He talks about what role you're playing. You might be an entrepreneur, but you might be a technician instead of a manager or a visionary. I haven't read this book in a while, so don't quote me on the actual words that I'm using. But if you haven't, I recommend that you read that, because that book really set the tone for me to want to strive at being a better manager and leader for other people. Now, as a leader, there might be times that you play the technician role, you play the manager role, and then you play the entrepreneur or the visionary role. But at what point do you balance those? And at what point do you always have to make sure that you're going back to the role that is going to duplicate yourself to provide greater success for yourself and others? And a lot of times, if you're so busy behind the chair, you're playing the technician role in your business. So do read that book. I think you'll enjoy it. Not having time to plan or communicate change. And oh yes, I get this one. I get this one a lot. They say that we have over 50,000 thoughts in a day, and majority of them are the same thoughts we had yesterday. Now, we are our thoughts, so there's a lot of new information out that in regards to perception, illusions, that the reality of them. You know, we know that perception and illusions are not necessarily reality, but the belief system can become so strong in that we can't change what we're doing. So part of this philosophy under this, it's almost like a quantum physics, you know, the what the belief do we know approach. We can't solve the problem in our same level of consciousness. So if you're having repetitive issues over and over and over again, your consciousness is at a cap. You've hit the ceiling on your consciousness, and until you change your consciousness, you don't have a new opportunity to solve what's going on. And we say that at the LEAD program, we change your consciousness so that you have a new level of solving problems. And it's based on a lot of that intentions and clarity and connection that I've been talking about and will continue to talk about. So remember that little piece there. It was a good insight. All right, so you got to take time to plan, in other words, and sometimes it means planning, doing things a little differently, or planning getting trained on something else so that you can communicate change or developments within your company. I can always remember the one thing when I was in middle management, the one thing I always said is I don't feel like I'm getting communicated enough. So as an employee of an organization, I can guarantee you they're probably saying, I don't feel like we're getting communicated enough. So at what point are we over-communicating? And at what point is it really just about being really present with your team? And then, of course, here's the famous one, they're my friends, so it's hard for me to reprimand them. And yes, it's true, but that's the authentic conversation that you're going to have with them. So if there's an issue that's come up, we're going to practice this one today. I'll use that one as an example in an exercise here. So, what do you think leadership is? Well, I had the opportunity, I'm going to boast here a little bit here because I don't get to do this very often. I ended up on the cover of Salon Today in October, and it was Enterprising Women, and it's, 17 salon industry entrepreneurs and what it takes to succeed. And I can tell you that the level of success from me and these 16 other women is all over the map. So some of these women have been amazingly successful, and some are just starting out, and like me in that case, but they have what we would consider to be enterprising ideas. And I'm going to reference a couple of the topics in that magazine. So if you can go online and read what I wrote, it's all about leadership. So feel free to go onto salon.com, and then you can search my name, Bonnie Bonadeo, and it'll pull up the full article. Or if you have the Salon Today in your business, it doesn't have the full article in the actual magazine. Online it does, but it's a portion of it. But I just wanted to kind of give you some insight on that, because one of the questions that they asked was, how would you describe your management style? And what do you think makes you a good leader? So I'm going to just read to you what I wrote about that real quick, because it is a part of what we're going to talk about in today's program. What always makes a good leader is the ability to understand the art of asking questions, having awareness around intentions versus action, and coming from a place of carefront versus confront. So instead of confrontation, come at it from a point of caring. My favorite quote is, people don't do things to you, they do things for themselves. So people are not intentionally doing something to you. There's a reason why they're doing it, and if you ask the right questions, you will discover the answers as to why they're doing it, and it's usually not personal. And when you don't take it personal, the leadership ability of yourself is going to change forever. It's going to change forever. But we're emotional creatures, so we have a tendency to take a lot of things very personal. And improvement in the level of emotional intelligence, understanding emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is a big portion and section of our 3-day LEAD program as well. And then the next question I'll share with you in this part right here is, how do you set goals for yourself? And this is a big part of it, I think, in regards to leadership. I love the analogy of the jar with the big rocks and the small rocks. And so if you took all of the rocks and laid them out, and you only put the small rocks in, it would consume the majority of your time. And the big rocks are the big pieces, the projects, the things you have to take care of, the difficult conversations that you might have to have with somebody today. But what happens is that we get really caught up in our day in managing a bunch of little rocks, and then we don't get to the big things, and then they build up and they become like emotional residue, big purple elephants in the room that don't go away. When you don't manage things in the moment or quickly as they come up, there's residue left over, and it will continue to fester, and it will come back to haunt you, I promise you. So think about those big rocks in the day that you have to manage, and take the time to practice, coach yourself on it, have the guts to take on those big rocks. They could be issues with some of your employees, or they could be projects that you're wanting to launch to get your business to the next level, or to get your people to a new skill level. So put the big rocks in your jar first, fill up the rest of your jar with the little rocks, and I think that you'll find that you can manage your time a little bit. A big part of poor leadership is poor time management as well. Okay, so here's what we say is leading people, managing personalities, understanding behaviors, awareness of your emotions, awareness of their emotions, really listening, asking questions, being present, managing others to a place of self-discovery and engagement. In school, when we were growing up, there was a lot of the ability where the teacher would say, okay, so I'm going to share with you something, but what do you think the answer is? And the teacher would ask us the question, and then we'd have to ponder the answer. It's still that same philosophy as adults and in leading people. Ask the questions, because it really takes on a openness with other people. And you'd always be surprised at sometimes what their real concern is. You might go into it with a particular intention, and then we find out that it has nothing to do with what we thought it was once we asked the right questions. And then it was really pretty easy to solve, and in most cases, they solved it themselves. You just gave them the space to be able to do that. So sometimes people think leading is telling, and leading is really coaching and managing personalities versus behaviors. So you guys understand the difference between behaviors and skill sets. So, you know, a lot of times you have to balance those out. You know, is somebody not doing well or creating problems or struggling because they don't know how to do the job they're being paid to do? Or is it a behavior issue? They do the job just fine, but it's a behavior issue. In other words, they create a lot of disruption. They might be negative. Here's where the negative's coming in. And they kind of create a lot of animosity between the group. And with that particular opportunity, you're managing skill sets or you're managing behaviors. Now, sometimes the reason why the skill set is not being dealt with is because it is a behavior problem behind that. But there's my first thing, is be aware what is the real issue. And you might have to ask the questions. So you could go in with, I think it might be this, but I'm going to ask the questions to be able to determine where the real issue is. And asking those questions could be just like, are you struggling with this? Can you share with me why this seems to be difficult for you? Is there something else going on that you'd like to share with me? That type of thing. Open it up to get them to talk to you. And they'll share with you more than you think. But remember that everybody has these protective behaviors surrounding them. And if I tell you I don't get it, then it's what I'm saying is I'm too stupid to figure it out. So people will hide behind their protective behaviors instead of being open. But if you ask the right questions, you'll get the right answers. And that's where the emotions come in regards to this. All right, so here's what Webster says leadership is. A process of social influence in which one person can enlist the aid and support of others in an accomplishment of a common task. Or the other version was, the process by which a person influences others to accomplish an objective. All right, now let's break this down a little bit. One person aiding and supporting others in accomplishments, right? That's what it is. You, leader, aiding and supporting others in accomplishment. Now, do you feel like you are aiding and supporting others? Or do you feel like you're babysitting or being a friend to others? So if you can just shift this one piece right now, aid and support. My role as a leader is to aid and support. And the part here where it says a person influences others. One of the biggest things about leadership is providing people the opportunity to make a choice. It's no different than if you're trying to sell them on a product, like you're selling a client on a product. You're providing them the information to make a choice. They're either going to make the choice or they're not going to make a choice. Okay? If you need them to make a choice, then you need to put timelines and other structure around them making a choice. Okay? And of course, the accomplishment and the objective. Here's this final part here. One person aiding and supporting others in the accomplishment. Now, whose accomplishment is it? Is it your accomplishment or is it their accomplishment? If you get them to do their accomplishment, will it not serve you and your accomplishment? So if I can get my staff to sell more retail, or if I can get all of us to increase our service dollars, or if I can sign up, more students to enroll in our school, those are the bigger accomplishments that you're trying to do. What's in it for the individuals and what is their accomplishment in order to be a part of the greater good? And remember, you're the person of social influence, or you're the influencer to be able to support people in accomplishing their objective. Now, as a leader, it's important that they understand the big goal, the big picture, the big objective. But as a leader, it's also your role to make sure that each and every person understands what's in it for them and how they contribute to the greater good. And it could be personal. So it could be that you're talking with the employee in regards to if it's a commissioned stylist, let's say, and they're not doing very well and they seem to be struggling a little bit, is having the conversation of what is it that they want to accomplish? Is this just a part-time approach for them? Do we need to maybe just make them a part-time employee? What is it that they want out of this? Are they lacking confidence in maybe doing the hair, which means that they're afraid to solicit new clients or promote themselves? And we all know that that's a big issue in our industry, self-esteem. But what do they want to accomplish? And if you ask those questions, maybe they're like, well, I'm living in an apartment with 2 other people right now, and I would love to be able to make enough money to have my own place. That's their accomplishment. That's their goal. That's what's in it for them. And if you can get them to the point where they can make their own rent payments, is that not going to serve the greater good of your business? Of course it is. Perfect. So that kind of breaks it down a little bit of leadership defined. Now I'm going to show you a video here, and if for some reason you can't see or hear this, just pop me so I can stop it. It's not a long video, but it's a video on leadership. The video is actually, it's very fuzzy, but it's designed that way because it was just somebody on their phone who took this. But then it's a TED video, and they turned it into a message. So I'm going to play that for you now. And just somebody send me a message if for some reason this doesn't come through or it doesn't have sound.
If you've learned a lot about leadership,
it's going to start with
then let's watch a movie happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect them. Now here's the second follow.
Whoops, sorry folks.
If they were on the fence before,
I did get a message saying that there was no sound and it wasn't playing right, so I apologize. It might have been many of you or all of you or even some of you, but if you saw it, you got the gist. Anyway, I'm going to tell you how to find this. Go on to TED after we're off of our webinar here and pull up naked or a shirtless dancer. So go just Google TED video shirtless dancer and you'll be able to watch it from start to finish. And I encourage you to do this for this very reason. Here's what the gentleman says at the end of this video. Leadership is over-glorified. And the reason why is because unless you have followers, unless you have people that are on board with you, your message means nothing. So when you have a couple of people that get you, that align with you, that understand your purpose and your message, they become more of the social influencers than you. So you can't have this hierarchy approach to leadership where it's me, I'm right, do what I say, or get out, okay? It's my way or the highway, those type of expressions. Start by gathering and connecting with those few people. Then those few people create this opportunity of creating a movement. In other words, people are more in line with their fellow peers than having a relationship with their boss at times. A lot of people are intimidated by that employee-boss relationship. So find those few people that you can build up, supporting your message, supporting what works. They then become your social influencers within your organization, and people will follow them. So as long as the message is the same, then you've got momentum. Again, this goes back to building the right culture. Okay, so if it's a bad culture and you've got people that don't align with you and they're off in the back room, you know, talking shop and talking bad, then you're creating a bad culture. Okay, and not necessarily a positive culture. So find those people that already are likable and in alignment with you and share with them. Listen, I want to get everybody on board, but I really think you guys are going to be more influential on what we're trying to accomplish here than I am. So I'm asking for your support to be able to, you know, really work with the other employees here, work with the other, the staff here or the team to be able to support this new project we're going into or support this new promotion we have going on for the holidays. Okay? That's the social influence that good leaders understand. It's never about a hierarchy approach. It's always about kind of being on the level with people and finding those few followers that don't make you look like a lone nut. Okay? All right, so watch the video, TED video, dance, shirtless dancing guy. All right, so this webinar today, as I had mentioned, is an introduction to the 3-day program called LEAD, Leadership Education and Development, and you can find out more about that too at napevents.com. All right, so here's 3 things that make a good leader, that we call them the 3 C's: communications, coaching, and connection, and they all layer on top of each other, alongside each other, and, you know, within each other. None of these can be separate and say you're a good leader. It all happens kind of simultaneously. I had an employee at one time, and it was somebody that I inherited in the position that I was in. She was already working for the company, and I needed some more support, and so they just kind of positioned her up in my department. But she didn't really like the role. She didn't want to have to be on the phone. She didn't want to have to solicit people in a sense, even though the people that she was soliciting were thrilled to death to get a phone call and be solicited. So it was an easy sell at the end of the day. But just that really wasn't what she wanted as a role. And I discovered that this person I was working with that wasn't really doing the job that I needed to be done was struggling in it, or she'd make up excuses as to why certain things weren't done, like picking up the phone and calling, 10 educators to have them do programs for us. And so when I talked with her about it, and I just said, but I asked you to make these phone calls. And she says, I know. She goes, it's just, I'm not that comfortable doing it. Maybe I need more of a script to do it. And I said, well, that's fine. We can work on a script to be able to do this. I said, but, you know, a script is, these are educators. These are people that they don't have a lot of time to be on the phone. And, you know, I can script you on starting the conversation, but from that point there, it's really more important that you're just being authentically yourself and sharing with them the information or setting up a time that they have more time to talk. And she continued to struggle with it. And there was a point where I had shared with her, I said, you know, I really need somebody that can do these roles. That's the help that I need in this position. And I feel like if you're not comfortable with it, then we might need to reposition you. She says, well, okay, then if we can reposition me into another department, then I'd rather do that. Maybe we can check with accounting so you can tell the kind of person that I'm dealing with here. This is somebody that's very analytical and doesn't necessarily want to have to be in that sales or marketing capacity, but behind the scenes, operations. And I said, okay. I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to set up a timeline. If nothing becomes available within the next 6 months or 3 months or whatever it was that I had said, then you'll need to resign. But we'll hold out for something in here. In the meantime, you might want to be looking for another job because I don't think this is the right job for you. And she agreed with me. Well, that timeline came up, so about a month out from it, there was no positions within the internally within the organization. And so she said she was looking for a job. And when that week came up, or 2 weeks out came up, I said to her, I said, where are you at? And she says, well, I made an agreement with you, and I guess I'm resigning so that you can find the right person in your position. That was like getting rid of somebody, but not having to fire them. It was just having an authentic conversation that they weren't the right person in that position. They knew it. I knew it. The company knew it. The customers on the other end of the phone that she was trying to have these conversations with knew it. But I had to put something together. She was a nice girl. She was very efficient in what she did do as far as the operational pieces, and I really valued her as a person. But she wasn't the right fit. And we created an exit strategy for her that she was fulfilled. Now, after she left, she might have felt that that was a bit of coercion or that I was the bad guy in this, but the truth is that it wasn't serving her and it wasn't serving me. So there's my story on communications, coaching, and creating the right connections with people to be able to succeed. All right, let's talk about communications. Awareness of your conscious and unconscious intentions. When you go into opportunities to communicate with people, whether it's good or bad, whatever intention you're wearing is what's coming across. You know how they say that body language is way more powerful than what you say? So it's like 59% is body language and 10% is what you say. So what is screaming out of you as an intention? So if you're coming to the table because somebody's constantly late, let's say, you're coming to the table and that person can feel your intention of they're late again, or I'm going to fire them if they're late one more time, or I'm going to have to write them up. If you're coming to the table with that, then that intention needs to be followed through. But if you're coming to the table with more of an authentic approach to I'm really struggling with you being late, and I hate to have this conversation with you one more time, but we've got to get to the bottom of this. I need to find out why you're not committed to showing up on time. That is an intention of really solving the issue instead of just telling the issue. And then directing through speaking and listening with more than your ears and head. Okay, let's go through these in detail. The awareness of your conscious and unconscious intentions. How are you showing up? What are your preconceived outcomes, or do you have an attachment to the outcome? Are you hoping that one more time after you've told them they're late that they're just going to quit and you're going to be done with it and you're never going to have to deal with it again? What's your attachment to the outcome? And what's the awareness of your emotions and theirs? A lot of times we don't take into consideration how we're showing up emotion-wise. Are we showing up angry, which is only going to trigger them to be either passive or angry back, depending on what their protective behavior is. Is it fight, flight, or freeze? So you could be having a very serious conversation with somebody and they look like deer in the headlights. Then you understand that they have their protective behavior is a freeze motion. You're never going to make progress with them because they've already been triggered. Or they might be fighters and fight with you on it, and you might be somebody that freezes, and then you don't know what to do. You're emotionally disabled at this point. So we teach you in LEAD how to be aware of your emotions and then to be able to manage others. And it's all about being present with them and understanding and seeing where they're at. Leading a play or a sports game, you know that if you're directing somebody, so where is the director of a movie or a TV show or a play? They're not in the film. They're on the sidelines. They're in the back. They've already provided their appropriate instructions, and now they go action, right? Just like in a sports game. The coach isn't on the field. The players are on the field. It's the best analogy I can use for being able to provide that real coaching opportunity for people. So this goes back to where somebody had mentioned that, oh, I'm afraid that they're not going to succeed, or in this case it might be dealing with negative people. Where's the coach on the sidelines? Okay, so being negative and you're watching this happen, you've got to pull them aside and you've got to have that really direct conversation with them. Clear and concise direction and communication of expectations. So I always say one of the critical things in leadership is, have you provided clear and communicated expectations? Because the failure is always uncommunicated expectations. Well, I didn't know I was supposed to do that. Well, I didn't hear that. When did she tell you that? Well, I didn't get that memo. Why didn't I get that memo? And then people are automatically charged up. And always err on the side of communicating. So over-communicate if you have to, without micromanaging. All right, in listening. Listening in such a way that you see the possibility of others' possibilities. Now, this was that technique I was telling you about earlier. We, a lot of times, they say you get 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should be doing twice the listening and half the talking type of thing. Well, if you're listening with your ears, then you're listening from your head. And when you listen from your head, you are creating judgments. You're thinking about what you're going to say next. You're questioning what they're saying. At this point, are you even listening at all? And I want you to practice this. Next time you have to, any kind of a conversation. It could be a conversation with your significant other at home, or your children, or a friend. Listen from your head and listen to what is going on in your head. And then make a practice of the next time you listen to somebody, listen from your heart. In other words, be consciously aware of taking it down a little bit further. And you'll find that there is a different type of listening that takes place. It's a more compassionate listening. It's a more heartfelt listening. It's really hearing what they're saying, and not necessarily, you don't feel the need to provide solutions because you realize that this is their way of feeling expressive or being heard and valued and respected. And then if you take it even one step further, and again, these are things we practice in the LEAD program, you take it all the way down to the soul. And you listen from your core being. Okay, and in this case, as a woman, this is our core chakra down here, down in your hips. And you just kind of wiggle your hips and you listen that deeply. And I promise you, the conversations will change with the people that you are leading, because there's a different level of presence with this person. And it's not something I can share with you necessarily on a webinar. It's a transformational piece that you have to experience. So when we take this and we practice it, you will have a different experience with it, which means that you have the ability to transform how you listen. So it's a very powerful approach too. And of course that plays a big role in coaching others, because listening is a big part of coaching others. And we talk about coaching others as choice over control. See beyond perception, self-investigation, expand your awareness, and say it like it is. Okay? So control diverts authenticity, shows fear, and it engages in unmanaged emotions. And sometimes if we overuse a logical approach versus an emotional approach, people get offended. You can easily offend, and your goal as a leader is to not offend, but to be effective in your communications. And if you're trying to control the direction or what's happening, it doesn't allow for choice. And then you can't control the outcome because people are going to start getting emotionally driven. See beyond perception, and I talked about perception earlier in regards to that illusionary piece there. But we shut others out when it doesn't look like what we want to be true. And emotion is about feeling, action is about doing. So we got to take into consideration emotions first. So from an emotional standpoint, we feel before we think. We react before thought. So if you understand that people are always more emotional than logical, and this is anybody, this is humans. So whether it's man, woman, child, humans, we feel before we think. So people are going to feel something before they think something. And if their body feels bad, they're going to think bad. Okay? Hopefully that made sense. But again, big part of it. Self-investigation, triggers of behavior, defense mechanisms, fight, flight, and freeze. Leading is about who you are and who you are being, not about who they are or what they are doing. You have to come to the table as vulnerable and authentic as you can in order for someone else to be that present with you as well. I know it sounds confusing. It is really a remarkable thing to watch transformation in this take place in our program. Expand your awareness. Awareness equals consciousness. Remember very early on I talked about that you can't solve problems in the same level of consciousness you're at right now. Well, be willing to be vulnerable or naked with yourself and others. And two things people avoid in leadership is being vulnerable and opening up, because we think that we have to package ourselves all up and be the boss and be the leader. And then, of course, say it like it is. I know it seems hard to do that, but I can promise you this is what we do. We have a problem with somebody at work, and we go home to our friend or significant other, and we say, oh, God, this person, I don't even know what to do with them anymore. They drive me crazy. I am crazed by what they do, and I don't know what happens, but I swear I get all jumbled up, and then I can't talk to them, and then I get angry, and, and then I'm lost. I don't even know what to do with them, okay? That conversation, refined, is what you take to them. So then you sit them down and you say, you know what, yesterday I was really befuddled by you. I have to figure out how to be able to make this relationship work with you, but honestly, I don't even know where to start. I'm confused. I get very frustrated every time you do this, and I got to tell you, my intention is that I want to make this work, and I got to know that you have that same intention. Otherwise, we're going to have to figure out a different solution. Now, how many of us actually go to the table saying those type of things? We don't. We tell everybody else the authentic truth of what's going on, but we don't tell the person that we have the issue with that very same thing. And if you authentically show up, I'm upset, not hide your emotions, not withhold your emotions, but express your emotions in the most authentic way that you can without offending. It may seem confusing right now, but the how and why is important. How you approach it and what you want that outcome to be. In other words, why is it important that you go to them and share with them this information? It's because you want to solve a problem. You want to see them be better than they are right now. You want to not be bothered by what's happening to you at this time. And you want the atmosphere of you and others to be more positive instead of negative. And then connections. Again, we're emotional beings. We think before we react and before we have thought. We feel before we think. We react before we have thought. So stop looking outward. Look inward. Leading is natural when you are being yourself and not hiding your naked truths in all of this. And of course, on connections, again, the leading program is about stripping away those layers that you've not been present with, that you're not present with yourself, let alone being present with another person. This program that we offer, it doesn't just change who you are in your business life with your employees, it changes your life. And I can only say that because it's changed mine, and I'm one of the trainers in it, and I'm inspired by the way my life is turning around in teaching these philosophies and watching other people's lives turn around as well. And the training is all about getting you to your naked truth so that you can be better with people. So we say that the naked truth about leading is about the transformation of you, not others. Now I can tell you what we're not. Leading, really authentically leading other people, it's not about understanding cash flow or increasing retail or inventory or operations, or it's not technical skill training of how to be better at services or provide better service, period. That's not leading. That might be operational success. That might be being a better entrepreneur or being a better business owner or being a better manager of processes or, you know, in your business. It's not leading people. Leading people is about really coming from a place of nothing and allowing inspiration and transformation to take place with another. And I promise you it'll take place with you too. That it will. So the LEAD program is a 3-day program, and it's structured around communications, coaching, and connection. There's lots of support, lots of practical hands-on with it. You really feel as though you've got a good sense of going back and being a different person in regards to it. And I wanted to let you know that these programs are taking place. We have one actually coming up really quick, November 10th through the 12th, and February 22nd through the 24th. And we have a special webinar price, or price for those of you that are on the webinar with us. It's normally $6.99 for the 3-day program, and it's only $5.99. So you're going to save $100. And if you go to napevents.com, actually, you know what? I'm going to have to fix that because that link wasn't working. So go to napevents.com tomorrow, and I'll make sure that that link is working. But if you click on the November one is working, the February one was not working, so I had to take it down. So if you're interested in the November one, otherwise give me to tomorrow to put up the February one, and use webinar and register by October 31st to save that amount of money. I promise you it will make a difference in your leadership program. Now we have these throughout the year. They're at our academy in Carlsbad, California. But we also take portions of this program. So if the 3-day training program is not something you can do right now, we understand, but we will continue to work with you on getting to it because it's a solid piece of information that's going to change and transform you. But there are components of it that we can support you in through coaching, or to be able to come out to your business and provide portions of our leadership training, or if you'd like us to come out and do the 3-day leadership training just for your business. Those are also options, and you can email me, Bonnie@napevents.com, to find out more about customized opportunities in place of our NAP Academy in Carlsbad, California programs. And then as I shared with you early on in the program too, there was the Stages program that we offer. Now we say this is speaker, educator, platform artist certification training of how to be able to speak from a stage, but the truth is it's communications training. It's how to be able to package up what you want to say to others, whether it's your staff of 5 or your staff of 50, and present that to where people want to take action with you. That's how you get people on board, is mastering the art of authentic speaking. Okay, so I'm going to source myself over here and see if there are some questions that I can answer for you. And so feel free to go on into the question and answer area at this point in time to see if there's anything that you'd like to ask. It could be in regards to what we talked about today. It could be an example of leadership, or it could be about the programs that I've introduced you to. And I know that it's really easy for us to say, I don't have the time. But I want you to remember what I said. We can't solve the problem in our same level of consciousness. We have to get to a new level of consciousness to be different in the problems we currently are doing or having at this point in time. And I know that it's easy to say, I don't have the money. You know, $5.99 seems like a lot of money, but $5.99 is a small portion if you can increase your level of presence with your employees and they start succeeding beyond your dreams. then it's a penny. It's a drop in the bucket. And I know that some of you say, well, I don't need help in this. I'm really good at this, but I do need help in this area. We've created these programs to have a layered effect that creates transformation. In other words, I provided you a lot of information today. I might have provided you some education today about leadership, but over a 1-hour webinar, I did not provide you transformation. And I promise you that 3 days is going to create transformation. California is too far to go. I live on the East Coast. Do you do them on the East Coast? We don't at this time. We are looking for some partners to be able to do them on the East Coast. But I can tell you that Carlsbad, California is beautiful, and with wintertime coming on our events being in November and February, it's a great opportunity to get out of wherever you are. And it's quite reasonable. Carlsbad, California is quite reasonable for a location to attend. Hotels are reasonable. Airfare is fairly reasonable to San Diego is where you'd be going into. And then some of you might be saying 3 days is just too long. But transformation requires a little bit of time and investment. And remember that it is, if you want to change the way you're doing things, make the intention of time to do things differently. Okay, let's see if we've got some questions. You guys have been a great audience today. Let's see what we got here. We're watching you from the school. Thank you for the information. Watching you from school. Oh, great, good. So it sounded like we had quite a few people from the school. That's fantastic. Good. Well, if there isn't any other questions at this time, then I hope that I have provided you some good insight about the naked truth on leadership. I appreciate you in the very beginning being vulnerable with me and sharing with me some of your greatest fears on leadership. And I hope to see you at our LEAD program coming up. We have the November dates and the February dates. Remember, we are at napevents.com. You can spell it all out, nakedaudienceproductions.com as well. But we'll get caught up in a spam filter with the word naked in there. So napevents.com, or email me, Bonnie, at napevents.com. And if the February date looks good to you, again, I got to fix that link on there so that you can register for that one. And what you'll do is you'll put in there's a code area, special code area, and you'll put in the word webinar. And that will provide you that special price that I'm offering you at this time. So again, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate you participating in our webinars under the Beauty Agents, and we look forward to bringing lots more education to you and sharing more opportunities for you to be the best that you can be. All right, everybody have a good evening.